Whether or not we realize it, every single one of us is currently under government and corporate surveillance. Such is the premise of Bruce Schneier's Data and Goliath, an alarmingly accurate expose in the security issues that come as a result of living in this technology-centric era. According to Wired, Schneier is one of the world's foremost security experts, and his newsletter and blog reach more than 250,000 people around the globe. He is a fellow at the Berkman Center for Internet and Society at Harvard Law School, and the Chief Technical Officer at Resilient Systems, a leading incident response platform, or IRP provider, that helps various organizations confront cyber attacks and business crises. Schneier presents Data and Goliath as an honest look into the unprecedented surveillance state that we are currently living in, a situation that has been building since the advent of technology, but has only recently come to give significant cause for concern. While he discusses some of the common practices at the NSA and other security agencies, the chief perspective provided is that of an international one, and thus he is able to establish global appeal and further his perceived legitimacy. Schneier addresses government practices and political systems dating back to the 1870s, but for the vast majority of the time, he focuses on developments relative to the last 5 or 6 years. By acquainting us with the most relevant information regarding data as surveillance, Schneier presents a convincing argument. We must increase awareness about the political liberties and commercial equalities that are currently at stake, and we have to fight back. As he himself puts it, we can start by renegotiating the bargains we're making with our data. We need to be proactive about how we deal with new technologies. In a later chapter, he adds to that point, saying how we deal with data, how we contain it, and how we dispose of it is central to the health of our information economy. So what is data anyway? In this context, as Schneier explains, data is the byproduct of high-tech socializations, and it is produced by virtually every form of technology we come into contact with. Throughout the book, he uses detailed analogies relating data to exhaust. According to him, data is the pollution problem of the information age, and protecting privacy is the environmental challenge. Our cell phones, even when they aren't being used, computers, credit cards, automobiles, and even our refrigerators and air conditioning systems produce data and metadata that reveal the intimate details of our personal lives. And what is metadata? While data refers to the actual content of our phone conversations, emails, etc., metadata refers to the context. The NSA was the recipient of a lot of bad publicity last year when Edward Snowden, one of the only other key individuals discussed in this text, leaked documents revealing many of their surveillance activities, and Schneier provides a lengthy anecdote discussing this major concern. Basically, the NSA defended itself by saying that by collecting the cell phone records of every American, they were only collecting metadata. That is, they weren't collecting the actual conversation, only the timing, length, and frequency of it, and of course, who it was we were talking to. This may seem trivial, but it's not. In an appeal to logos, Schneier cites a recent Stanford University experiment, during which researchers examined this phone metadata of around 500 volunteers for several months. From a single stream, they could determine who was suffering from multiple sclerosis, who fell victim to a heart attack, who owned semi-automatic weapons, who grew marijuana in their home, and who had had an abortion. The reality is that both data and metadata play significant roles in society, and the kinds we produce can easily reveal the most intimate details of our personal lives. Schneier rarely uses sensory language to enhance his argument, except occasionally when reinforcing key concepts. When describing some of the more obvious forms of business surveillance, he says that, quote, people are okay with sloppily personalized advertising, and with seamless and subtle personalized advertising, but are creeped out when it doesn't match their sense of themselves. But this is all going to change over time, as we become more used to it, unquote. He continues to say that the definition of creepy is relative and fluid. When discussing forms of hidden surveillance, Schneier says that drones are getting smaller and harder to see. They're now the size of insects, and soon the size of dust. He uses examples like these to further illustrate his point and help his audience see things from a new perspective. Steven Pinker, author of The Better Angels of Our Nature, refers to Data and Goliath as a judicious and incisive analysis of one of the most pressing new issues of our time, written by a true expert. New York Times journalist Jonathan A. Nee agreed to an extent, but when it came to his specific policy recommendations, Nee found that Schneier became significantly less compelling. Personally, I went into this book with my doubts, having long consented to the reality that we live in a zero-privacy world. But Schneier convinced me that this does not have to be the case, and awareness is the first step to surviving life in the digital age.